Back in the day when things were hard, but welcome to today's episode. I'm excited to have you all back. Today we have a special guest. Drum roll, please. We have our sister Harriet Jacobs, a reformer, civil worker, Reconstruction relief worker, anti-slavery activist, and author. Good morning, Mrs. Jacobs. How have you been doing?
Good morning, Mrs. Tommy. I'm doing great by God's grace, and you?
I'm also doing great, thank you. Okay, let's jump right into it then. Mrs. Jacobs, where were you born and who are your parents?
I was born in North Carolina, and my parents are Delia Harborn and Elijah Knox.
Are your parents still alive and do you have any siblings?
No, both my parents have passed away, and I have a brother called Willie.
When did you realize that you were a slave?
When my mother passed away, there was a talk around me, and I would listen. And just like that, at the age of 6, I learned I was a slave.
Wow, that is very young.
Yeah, it was an eye-opener for me.
How would you say that was an eye-opening experience for you to find out at such a young age that people view you as a property?
6 years till my happy childhood disappeared just like that. I was too young to understand everything that was going on, but I knew for sure that my life was about to change and not for the bad.
We understand that this was all hard to digest for you. So, was there someone who you looked up to and gave you hope?
Yes, I had my grandmother since my parents passed away. My grandmother always looked up to God for her strength to keep on. Yes, I had my grandmother since my parents passed away. My grandmother always said, look up to God, and she also did that for her strength to keep on moving. And to see her do that after many years in slavery, I knew I could make it.
Wow. Here's a tissue. Don't waste your tears.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be right back, y'all. Until then, listen to this ad that we have for slaves back in the day.
Are you in need of getting away from the bummy slave master? Don't you worry. All you have to do is write to slaverygotyourback@slavery.com. When we get this email, we put to the plantation with our people and get out of danger, even if it means your master has to die. Don't worry, we got your back.
We are back again, and for this section, we'll be asking Mrs. Jacobs questions about her book. How did you come to the decision to write incidents in the life of a slave girl?
As a way to bring attention to the life of enslaved women and to expose harsh realities of slavery.
What motivated you to write the book using a surname Linda Brett?
Using a surname allowed me to protect the identities of those mentioned in the book, including my own, as well as avoiding potential repercussion for revealing my true identity as a former slave.
Could you describe the challenges you faced while writing and publishing your book?
Writing the book itself was challenging as I had to recall painful memories and relive the trauma of my experience. Publishing was even more difficult as the topic of slavery was controversial and many publishers were unwilling to take the risk.
What message were you hoping to convey to your readers through your book?
I wanted to shed light on the unique struggles faced by enslaved women, particularly their experience of sexual abuse and challenges of motherhood within the institution of slavery.
How did your experience as a slave shape the narrative theme in your book?
My personal experience formed the backbone of the narrative, providing first-hand accounts of the cruelty, dehumanization, and struggles faced by enslaved women. The themes of freedom, motherhood, and resilience emerged from these experiences.
Can you elaborate on the significance of the title, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl?
The title actually reflects the nature of the narrative, focusing on the various incidents and events that occurred throughout my life as a slave, particularly as a female slave. It highlights the challenges and injustice faced by enslaved women.
How did your book contribute to the abolitionist movement?
By sharing my own story, I aim to humanize the experience of enslaved women and reveal the inherent cruelty of slavery. My book was intended to inspire empathy in readers and provide them with a first-hand account of the need for abolition.
Did you encounter any resistance or backlash after the publication of your book?
Yes. There was so much backlash from the pro-slavery individuals and supporters. Some critics dismissed my stories as fictional or being dramatic, while others attacked my character and credibility. However, the book also received support and praises from other abolitionists.
How did it feel for you, as the protagonist, to live under the constant threat of being sold away from your family and the incident in the life of a slave girl?
It was always fear that was filled with me. And pressure. The thought of just being separated from my loved ones was unbearable and haunted me every single day.
What were some of the challenges you faced while attempting to escape from slavery in the book?
Escaping slavery was one of the hardest things I ever did. The journey was filled with numerous challenges. I had to navigate through unfamiliar territories, hide my identity, and rely on the kindness of strangers who were risking their own safety to help me.
How did you maintain your sense of identity and dignity in the face of dehumanizing treatment as a slave?
Well, it was incredibly challenging, but I refused to let slavery define me. I clung to my dreams, my memories, and my relationship with loved ones, and to preserve myself of self-worth and dignity.
Can you describe a particular memorable encounter or relationship you had with another enslaved person in the book?
One relationship that stands out to me is my bond I had with Auntie Martha, an older slave woman who provided me with emotional support and guidance. Her wisdom and her spirit of never giving up inspired me and gave me strength during the darkest moments of my life.
What role did religion and faith play in your journey as depicted in the book?
Religion and faith were a source of solace and strength for me. They provided me with hope and allowed me to find meaning in my suffering, and gave me the courage to keep on fighting for freedom.
How did you manage to maintain your resilience and determination in the face of numerous setbacks and hardships in your book?
It was very difficult, but I drew from the strength from my will to want to live as a free person and to protect my loved ones. The desire for a better future and the belief that justice would prevail helped me persevere through the darkest moments of my life.
Looking back on your experiences, how do you hope your story will impact readers and contribute to the abolitionist movement?
I hope that by sharing my story, readers will gain a deeper understanding of the horrors of slavery and the hardships of those who lived through it. My goal is to inspire empathy and provoke the thought and contribute to the movement of fighting for the right of slavery in the pursuit of equal rights for all.
Mrs. Tubman, thank you very much for letting us have you on this podcast. Thank you for your book that has shed a light on the horrors of slavery.
You are very welcome. Thank you for having me on here to share my story.
Well, folks, that's all for today's podcast. Keep sending the names of people you want to see on future episodes. You never know, we might have Malcolm X next.